Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Michele Scalatella, chair of the Trusted Connectivity Alliance 5G Working Group, and I would like to warmly welcome you to this TCA webinar, which will provide guidance on the latest updates on the TCA recommended 5G SIM. That will help operators realize the latest benefits and opportunities offered by the 3GPP 5G Release 17 with the highest level of security, privacy, and functionality. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping points that I would like to quickly walk through. So this is all a recorded webinar. Attendees can post at any time as needed. During all attendees had the opportunity to submit questions when registering for the webinar. So our aim is to address as many of those questions during the main presentation, but at the end, in today's webinar, we'll have a Q&A session to address some specific questions received. You may also submit questions during the webinar through the webinar dashboard on the right-hand side of your screen. And if your question is not addressed, we will aim to provide a written response to you by email. Next question. So just a few words about the Trusted Connectivity Alliance. It's okay. Trusted Connectivity Alliance and what it is, what do we do? It's a global non-profit industry association working to enable trust in a connected future. TCA develops technical specifications, guidelines, and requirements, as well as supporting test specification and tools that promote advanced security, interoperability, and performance across the global tamper-resistant element, or TRE, ecosystem that is at the base of the SIM. TCA provides exclusive statistical insight into the global TRE ecosystem based on members' market data. And this is an authoritative vision into the key industry trends and is trusted by stakeholders across the mobile ecosystem. So TCA members also participate across different technical industry associations and standard development organizations with the common objective to support continued standardization and advancement of the TRE ecosystem by contributing to and shaping key industry initiatives. And TCA develops a range of educational resources to inform stakeholders on the benefits of the TRE form factors to drive the sustained growth of trusted connectivity across industry where security is paramount. Next slide, please. This is the list of the members. As you can see, the TCA members are leaders within the global TRE ecosystem. And for this is just a brief introduction to the TCA. Now I would like to move into the actual webinars. Let me introduce you the presenters. For today are Alejandro Pulido, is the chair of the TCA Secure Application for Mobile Working Group, and is also a SIM product manager at Valid. And Irene Aleman, she's a member of the TCA 5G Working Group and a standardization lead at SIM product manager at Valid. That said, I will now hand it over to our presenter for the webinar.
Okay, thank you very much. So to start, the rollout of 5G networks continue in advance, and 5G has been deployed over 54 countries around the world with 121 active networks. It is expected by the GSMA that the 5G networks will cover 1/3 of the world's population. And currently, the LTE networks are the predominant ones. But as we can see in this graph, by 2025, the use of 5G networks is expected to increase. And in the determinant of the LTE networks, reaching partially the same number in 2027. This implies expansion into new markets and services such as automotive, IoT, extended reality services, and 5G is expected to become the leading technology for cellular private networks. Therefore, the key point of the progressive adoption of the 5G network is that it introduced new significant challenges for security and privacy. So let's move on and see what is the recommended 5G SIM. According to 3GPP, this is the which is the reference standardization body for telecommunication protocols. The starting point is that the SIM and the eSIM cards are the only platform which can be used to secure 5G network access. So, as leader in trusted connectivity, TCA works collaboratively with members and other industry bodies and entities to develop guidelines that promote the highest levels of security, privacy, and functionality in 5G networks, and also help stakeholders across the mobile industry to unlock the full potential as 5G future use cases and possibilities to unfold. Let's look at the timeline of the updates, at the upgrades. TCA developed the recommended 5G theme, which was first released in 2018 to outline which technical features of SIM technology addresses the challenges MNO face beyond network access when migrating to 5G. We committed to updating the recommended 5G SIM to help MNOs maximize the investment in their 5G network infrastructure. So in 2021, the document was updated to align with the new use cases introduced by the 3GPP Release 16 for phase 2 of the 5G deployment. So now, following another year of growth in the 5G ecosystem, the TCA has updated the document to align with the 3GPP Release 17, which, as we will cover in this presentation, and will help mobile network operators to maximize the investment in core infrastructure that enhance security and unlocks value-added services across exciting new use cases. So I will let Alejandro now explain the 5G using related to security.
So thanks a lot, Irene. So then we will see why the 5G is the only using platform that allows to get all the benefits from the 5G networks. But before, let's see what are the release 17 5G provides to in terms of flexibility. So regarding the architecture itself is, we can see that it's very flexible. So the main goal of the 5G architecture is, to connect the device user from the eSIM with the credential stored in the eSIM with the home network. So we can consider both entities, either the SIM or eSIM with the 5G credentials and the home network, the most secure entities in the whole ecosystem. In between the device that 5G opens a new range of devices to be connected to the 5G. So for example, the usual devices, the mobile phone and so on, IoT devices, industrial use case, and also automotive use case. So all of this will access to the network through the different radio access network. Here we have the flexibility that we can have the collocated run that will decrease the OPEX for the MNOs. Also, we have different use cases that can be covered with the virtualization of RAN in cloud services, then the open RAN, which is open regardless the operator, and the non-3GPP access such as the Wi-Fi. Those radio access network will allow the user to access the different serving network, as said, the home network, but also it can provide the access to the network slicing to offer the MNO different vertical solutions, services. Also, when we are in roaming, to access the visited networks, but also it includes the possibility to access the different private networks. So all this flexibility, of course, came with a cost, and the cost is in terms of new potential security threats. So taking into account that more devices will access the network, and those devices are usually the main target of the attackers because they contain sensitive information and it's easier, let's say, to exploit the different security issues that these devices may have. So here we have a potential device threats. Additionally, the different potential different radio access network that 5G provides are also can be a target for the attackers regarding the air interface threats, but also this includes the edge network threats. Regarding the core network itself, we also may have the backhaul threats and 5G core network threats. And then finally, and coming from the outside of the networks, external network threats. To avoid this, then 5G authentication is also flexible and is trying to avoid all these threats. So we release 17, 5G release 17 has improved the AKA, the 5G AKA, which is the natural evolution of the 4G AKA and the previous mechanism. So here we have the primary authentication based on the USIM, where the credentials are stored. And the user authentication is delegated when accessing from the visiting network to reduce the security risk. The 5G AKA has also the additional benefits of preserving the user privacy by using the concealed SUPI or SUSI. Another mechanism is the EAP AKA, which is the Improved Extensible Authentication Protocol, EAP, based on AKA. This protocol allows to integrate into the 5G framework authentication for devices that are not identified by IMSI, such as corporate assets that can benefit from the 5G services security infrastructure. Additionally, we also have the EAP TLS. This is not directly related with the 5G credential, but it can also leverage the 5G SIM by storing the different credentials for TLS authentication inside the 5G SIM. So now Irene will explain us more about these 5G different authentication mechanisms.
Yes, thank you. There are four kinds of network access. Here we have two, and then we are going to see another two in the next slide. The first one is the primary authentication. This is the preliminary one to any other type of network access, and it requires the interaction of the 5G SIM with other type of network access. And so it requires the interaction of the 5G SIM with the home network using only connected the user identity. So it is the base that it's used to generate another derived authentication procedure for other services like roaming services, for example. So the network is slice authentication, which is the second one here. Well, there are controlling entities in the USIM and the service profiling, and it can be determined, for example, if the access to service is possible based on time of day of year, location, and any other service-specific parameters. The lack of a 5G SIM will obligate to delegate this to a handset, and sometimes the handset doesn't support it, so it is not performed. Continuing with authentication types, in the other cases that I mentioned before, the application-specific authentication, which is similar to the network slide authentication, but in this case, the validating criteria is completely delegated to the third-party application. So the MNO will pass the request using the 5G standard mechanism. Then, lastly, the secondary authentication is relying completely on the third party of the authentication without having any involvement with the 5G secrets. So in this case, the 5G SIM card can provide support to the security storage and CryptoBox security functions like encryption, decryption, and data signature, for example. So now let's look at the evolving with the network architecture. As is well known, 5G started with release 15 specification and has been progressing over the last years, covering release 16 and ultimately release 17. All the information concerning release 15 and 16 can be found here in the document published respectively in 2018 and 2021 by TCA. And the references are here in the slide highlighted, as you can see. So release 17 particularly comes from the improvements of expanded market services. such as enhances roaming and energy efficient, IoT services, public and safety mission critical services, supply of multiple use SIMs in universal equipment, and so on. So therefore, this new document had been updated to respond to the powerful features introduced by the 3GPP release 17 in 5G. So to continue with the introduction of 5G, let's look at the benefits and challenges of this new technology. As benefits, we have the great potential for wide range of service models, and that implies high performance in network access, enhanced broadband, ultra low latency connection, network slicing, and dedicated private network for customized network access. And also we have the scalable framework. And then on the other hand, we have the challenges that this present as well, which is the new security challenges like the to comply with the cloud infrastructure and also the higher security level needed to reach the full 5G potential, and the unified authentication across different network types such as public 5G, private 5G like non-standalone and standalone, and non-3GPP networks. So we will just continue with Alejandro to see the features and benefits for release 17 SIM card.
So thanks, Irene. So now, yes, let's explore the different benefits the 5G SIM provides in the new release 17 features. So this is quite a short summary about the recommended 5G SIM aligned with the new features and enhancement introduced by 3GPP release 17. These reflect the growing relevance of the 5G by expanding its market across emerging use cases. So new features can be, for example, the new expanded radio side link for IoT use case in the automotive industries, for example, the ultra-reliable low-latency services and the red cap for narrowband devices and so on for the IoT specifically, and also for e-health and public safety and mission-critical use cases. So unlocking mobile broadband and provide 5G network for home and business is something also that Release 17 has done. And finally, supporting the satellites telecom for non-terrestrial connectivity. So that's the 5G SIM recommended by TCA is the only using platform that will leverage all these benefits and will be able to interoperate in a standard way in all those new use cases. So these are some of the new, the release 16 features that were already covered in the white paper that you can download from the link in this slide. Here, in release 16, the network slicing support that will provide to have dedicated services in the same network for the user. So the 5G SIM already support this. The multi-device and multi-identity use cases that help the user with different devices and different identities on those devices to have control or management of these identities and devices. So the 5G USIM also is supporting this in release 16. Regarding the vehicle to everything, the protocol for connected cars. This technology is also supported by the 5G USIM and enhance subscriber privacy, which is basically, as we commented before, the concealment of the SUPI for the user privacy, and this is also supported by the USIM. And regarding the different private network access, so as saying before, the private network access is a great feature from 5G because before 5G, this private network was almost fully separated from the 4G. So now we will explore the different release 17 opportunities that the network provides and how the 5G SIM for release 17 is able to benefit of these opportunities that the network is providing. So regarding the secure network access in general, the new 5G AKA provides privacy mechanism to not to disclose the user identity. Additionally, it provides better security because it has increased the key length. It also provides the non-access stratum configuration that basically provides new counter for the different uses that we may have or we may perform over the network. So for example, we can separate the counters for different P elements, but also between services for voice and data. Also, another this was part before of the 3GPP specification. So power saving modes, as the extended discontinuous reception, is now integrated, extended, and improved for additional with additional parameters in the UC. So Irene, please, what are the benefits that the 5G SIM provides regarding the secure network access?
Yes, these opportunities provide benefits that are better privacy that allows MNOs to security of low traffic to WLAN avoiding user manual involvement, also provides higher resistance against future attacks of the networks, dedicated authentication context for each PLMN that provides better security and also an improvement of handling of low power. So these features are important for satellite networks and also for IoT services, among others.
Okay, regarding the roaming services, so we know that 5G has also improved a lot the roaming in general, the steering of roaming. So here we can see three main opportunities. So the steering of roaming can be managed separately for different services, again, voice and data, and different applications. Also, specific parameters affecting the steering of roaming, especially for satellite networks, has been created, allowing to provide a large service area, including multiple countries. And then a new directive also allows to implementing the stereo roaming all in areas that are struck by disaster and emergency situations. And then what are the benefits regarding the 5G SIM?
Well, the main benefit is that it reduces the risk of billing frauds due to the reduction of the delegation in visited networks during the roaming authentication. So now business roaming policy can be stored in the USIM and updated by control plane lawyer. And also, in case the managing policy changes, there can be restored the parameters in the SIM. And another benefit is the adaptation of the string of roaming to the satellite roaming and a better definition of network services in a disaster area.
Okay. Now, regarding the value-added services and the non-3GPP access, so there are two main important features that provide value-added services regarding the non-3GPP access. The first one is the generic bootstrap architecture, also known as GBA, which is part of 3GPP since long time ago, but now in release 17, the GBA is one of the 5G service function. That means that it's not required extra effort, extra design effort to be integrated because it is already fully integrated into the release 17. So, and it's also being extended and enhanced to support the public safety and edge compute. The other is that in release 17, a fully integrated access to non-3GPP network is immediately available for 5G. So this enables better security and provide value-added services for the non-3GPP service provider. So then what are the benefits for this?
Okay, so thanks to the GBA services are now integrated in the SIM, the card can act as an enable for this. So the support of the third-party authentication is fully integrated as a 5G service function, and there are no additional actions for the MNOs. So in addition, flexible authentication schemes allow to cope with different use cases, offering high-quality security services to non-3GPP networks, and also the enabling of a high secure support by the SIM that allows flexibility to integrating into existing infrastructure.
Thank you. Now let's see what's about the proximity services. So the proximity services again were available since release 12, and well, now in release 17 they have also been significantly enhanced. So basically, the ProSe proximity services allow the device to detect other devices that are nearby and are able to communicate. So these offer opportunities in business to business to customer, and so on. So here we can see different opportunities. So one of the main improvement is that we can is the improved scalability, manageability, privacy preservation, and better battery management in wearables. Also, it provides better control to the operators because they give to the operators the management of the radio resources. And finally, it brings positive impacts in different use cases. So, for example, advertising and social and gaming. And so, Irene, what are then the benefits regarding the 5G SIM?
Well, the 5G SIM provides a secure, reliable storage for proximity service configuration parameters, and it's also offered a secure parameter provision managed by the network. So here you can find a list of involved parameters, the proximity service available, and the different data needed for each proximity service functionality. Finally, this implies that the testing and the performance monitoring are facilitated, which is a key requirement for the IoT.
Great. So now regarding the reduced capabilities or RedCap devices, also known as new radio light. So this is especially for the IoT, for constrained devices, and this well-knit network under the umbrella of 5G is intended to replace the LTE machine type communication. It brings many benefits for the MNO. So for example, for the operator, it brings the umbrella to offer services to different IoT devices from the 5G infrastructure. So the new radio light, as said, will replace the LTA machine type communication alternative with a single alternative with no limitation in the spectrum used. So the main benefit is the improvement on the coverage limitation that the previous technology were adding. And the benefits regarding the 5G SIM.
Yes, the power efficient 5G SIM is an ideal fit, in particular eSIM as a very small form factor and bill of material saving in iSIM. Both bring a significant advantage for addressed applications. Compatible with major new radio reduced capability requirements such as low power, reliability, and low latency. And in addition, it implies a better integration and benefits for 5G core architecture, enabling for slicing, quality of service data flow, and control, and privacy of objects for critical infrastructures.
Okay. So now let's move to the enhanced support of standalone private network. So as we were saying before, in general, before 5G, the private network were almost fully separated from the public networks. With 5G, this changed and it implements and improves the interworking with private network. So it provides the support to host, for example, third-party credentials as credential holder that make easier to deploy standalone private network and of course the interworking between the public network and private network. And it also provides, and it's something very important, the support for the emergency services over the private networks. And then what are the benefits regarding the private networks?
Well, one of the main benefits is that the 5G SIM card act as a repository for credentials for the standalone non-public networks. And in addition, it can enable the switch of this type of networks. So according to 3GPP definition of the SIM card, a 5 it is also a 5G public network credential storage, and according to GSMA, eSIMs and iSIMs are recommended for better interoperability with the profile provisioning.
Great, thank you. So then finally, let's see what are the benefits from the enhanced support of industrial IoT. So the ultra-low latency communications in Release 17 has been enhanced to include the possibility for a mobile equipment to communicate with another mobile equipment in this mode. So this extend the time-sensitive networks. Those time-sensitive networks are very important actually for industrial applications that requires this time-sensitive. So this is important, for example, for critical infrastructure. So here, how can we benefit from the 5G SIM?
Okay, to perform a full 5G authentication, it is needed a 5G SIM, and this can be used to fulfill the security and safety needed in IoT application, for example. Besides, the 5G SIM offers crypto box features for reliable and high secure universal equipment and an endpoint to endpoint applications, device identity, and also root of trust and application specific configuration.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So then we can, well, we have seen already some of the opportunities that the 5G Release 17 provides. We have seen how our 5G SIM can take these opportunities and can provide a lot of benefits to take these different opportunities and to become it real. So as there is a lot of new functionalities that can be fulfilled with the 5G, because the 5G SIM is the only SIM that is able to fully support all these new opportunities that Release 17 are providing. So additionally, Release 17 increased a lot the level of security for accessing the network. We have seen the different threats, and we have seen how the 5G is able to, well, to make our life easier and more secure by accessing these 5G networks. So in this case too, the 5G SIM fulfill the security requirements, and the operator can trust the 5G SIM to provide additional secure services. And of course, TCA recommends the 5G SIM to help unlocking all the full potential of the 5G networks. So here you can download the latest TCA white paper where all of this is already explained. And now, well, I give the floor to Michele for the Q&A session.
Thank you, Alberto, Alejandro, Irene, sorry, for this great overview on the 5G SIM for the Release 17. So before we start the Q&A session, I would like to remind everyone that a full recording of this webinar will be shortly available on the TCA website and on the YouTube channel. And you can also download the recommended 5G SIM ebook from the TCA website at www.trustconnectivityalliance.org. And in the ebook, you will find much more technical details, so including also the reference to the relevant paragraph of the various standards that are used, used for the 5G SIM to implement some of the features that were presented. You can also stay up to date to the latest technical and educational resources by following TCA on Twitter and LinkedIn, and visiting the website, where you also be able to subscribe to our monthly newsletter. Okay, so that said, let's move to the questions, the Q&A session. We'll go through some of the questions that we have received. As I said before, the other questions that we're not able to answer today will be our aim to provide you the answer by email. So let's go with the first question. Can we consider the timing of mass adoption of the recommended 5G SIM from operators that will be the same time as the replacement of 5G core network by the 5G core network? Perhaps Alejandro, would you like to take this question?
Sure, thanks, Michele. So well, so for this point, well, according to the major market research, the time of adoption of 5G is well, taking into account the benefits we have seen and so on, will be potentially shorter than for the 4G. So if we follow this well, this information, this approach, probably we may anticipate that the 5G adoption will be also shorter than the 4G SIM. Because well, we may follow the speed of the adoption of the 5G network in general. So,
okay, thank you. Let's move to the second question. Any specific needs for SIM in the context of private networks? Perhaps Irene, would you like to take this question?
Yes. So in general, let's split the private networks into 3GPP private networks and non-3GPP private networks. So the 3GPP private network with unique identifier like IMSI, SUPI, or network-specific identifier can interwork with public networks with the appropriate credential stored in the USIM. Overall, the SIM for private networks need to be considered with the subscription for the private network, except we consider the option of roaming into private network from public network, but this will require specific agreements between the public network provider and the public and the private one.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, great. That was Thank you. Very informative. Let's move to the next question. How to take the SIM and me trace from the eSIM in case we have to debug the applet installed in the ISD.P? Alejandro, this seems a bit more on the development side than specific 5G. Okay, but nevertheless, perhaps would be useful to give an answer on
Okay.
this.
Yeah, thank you, Michele. So yes, this is, I mean, this is in general, this is for all SIMs, regardless of the specific network technology. So well, basically, if the device is in debug mode and also the SIM is in the test mode, maybe, or in testing, under testing. So with the trace tool, it would be possible to obtain the log for debugging. That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, next question. What are the additional use cases that 5G provides in roaming? I think this is related to the single roaming that you discussed before. Irene, perhaps could you elaborate on this?
Okay. So additional use cases, among others, are the stream of roaming that can be managed separately for different service and applications, and also the support for satellite and other alternative networks, and also in big countries, reduce the effort for integration for different networks, and also the disaster area and emergency situations coverage.
Okay. And let's see, I think we have time just for the very last question. What type of application are enabled by the new features of 5G critical services? Alejandro, may I
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Michele.
address?
So, well, the critical services, so as its name says, is for critical services. So, for example, we can apply it to health use cases. So we can even allow remote surgery with the 5G critical services in the automotive sector. For example, the management of emergencies and also the transfer of important data in case of emergencies or something like that. It can be used, but also it can help a lot for the public safety or disaster management by the governments or the local governments.
Okay, great. Okay, so I think with this we have reached our allotted time. I'd like to thank you first, our speakers, Alejandro and Irene, for a very interesting presentation and for replying to the question. Also, thank to everyone who joined this webinar. Um, as a reminder, if you have submitted a question during the webinar, we will send to you an individual response by email. And we really value your feedback on this webinar, and we would appreciate if you could take a few minutes to complete the short survey that we will receive after this webinar. This will help us to improve and better adapt future events to really to your needs and your wishes. Okay, with that said, I think we can conclude the webinar here. Thanks again to speakers and everyone that joined and people that supported this production, and thank you. Bye.
Thank you.